I'm Russ Kickle, and on this episode of Americanreef, Tunze has an upgrade to their care magnets. So if I'm a new hobbyist, I'm asking myself, why do I care about an upgrade to a care magnet? And if you don't have a care magnet, it's probably a good point. But a more important point would be, why should I care about the care magnet? And it's simple. New hobbyists will waste literally hundreds of dollars, right, on glass cleaning magnets that they don't use, while at the same time putting scratches and damage into their glass because they just don't know any better. And that's the problem that I'm hoping to solve with today's video. So the best way to kind of demonstrate why the care magnet is of value, right, is through an example. Most new hobbyists, right, they'll get their tank set up, right, and after a few days or weeks, etc., they realize that they have to start cleaning the glass. Some will go out and get basically a razor blade on a stick, which again is a good tool that you will have in your arsenal. However, you'll find out that your hands will get wet. There's no place to put the blade with a stick, especially if you got kids, that kind of thing. And so you'll be looking for something else. And normally what happens is you go to the mag float route because you look at it and go, wow, you know, this is basically a magnet with some Velcro on the inside to clean it. If it pops loose, it'll float to the top. Sounds like a pretty good tool, right? And it is, to a point, right? Meaning that you buy that, that mag float, and chances are you don't buy the one that you really should buy because they're kind of expensive, $50, $100, etc. So you buy one that, again, you think will do the job. You take it home, you go back and you're using it, and the thing keeps on popping off, or it doesn't have quite the strength that you need, right, to get things off the glass. And then you realize, man, I better go back and get the stronger one. So you go back, you get the stronger one, and you're doing the same kind of thing. And though it stays on a little more, you realize after using it a while, right, there are things that you can't get off this glass, right? It's the coralline algae growing, right? That kind of thing. And you're like, man, I wish I would have got the one with the blade, right? So luckily, in today's age, most of them all have the blades. So you have basically two magnets that's sandwiched together with a blade on it. Right? You get that one, and again, those magnets are a little bit stronger. You've got your blade on, and that's where things start to go wrong. Meaning that since those magnets are a little bit stronger, what happens is sand, rock, etc., will get in between the glass and that wet side and basically put these micro abrasions onto your glass. And you won't really notice them at first, right? But it'll be all kind of scratched up. And again, I call them micro abrasions because you can't really see them until you can, right? And so what happens though is you'll get the coralline algae and you'll get that little blade and you'll knock it off, etc. But that little float will still float up way too much, right? And that's where you're like, man, that's it. You're going to upgrade to the big boy, right? No mag float. You're going basically with algae free, and algae free's got these beautiful wooden blocks, right? That really have strong magnets that will sandwich between that glass. And man, sometimes you struggle even just to move this thing, right? And they even have blades on them. So again, the things that you learned to that point, it covers. But what that happens is since those magnets are so strong, that one fine piece of sand that gets caught in between kind of the Velcro magnet wet side, right, and the glass, you'll pull it across and you'll hear this kind of nails on chalkboard thing going on. And you're like, oh man, I scratched my tank, right? And the first one, you're kind of like, well, it's not that bad, right? And you try to be careful, and then after a while, basically what's happening is it'll happen again. And so the macro or micro, abrasions will happen more, as well as the scratches. And then before you know it, you've destroyed that glass in the front of your tank, or acrylic if you have acrylic tank, right? And that's where the Care Magnet, for example, or there are others out there, really help solve that problem. Meaning, you're looking for something that has a blade and only a blade touching the glass. When you get these magnets that have basically, the glass sandwiched between them, whether they're strong or semi-strong or whatever, they scratch the glass, and you want to try to minimize that as much as possible. Granted, you'll always have those kind of magnets in your kind of arsenal of algae cleaning equipment, but at the same time, for your day-to-day use, right, that's where ultimately you just want that blade to do it. And again, the Care Magnet, that's how it works, because again, sand can't get between anything because it's not really sandwiched, right? Flip has one, right, that is very similar to that, where one side has the blade, the other side has the pad, right? Again, good option. I prefer the Care Magnet just because I want to make sure that if somebody's trying to help me out, watch the tank, right, etc., and decides to clean the glass, they don't scratch it up, right? And if you have one of those flip ones, sometimes that flip, they won't know any better, and that's what will happen, right? And I only know that because that's what happened to me, right? So that's why I prefer the Care Magnet. Okay, so let's talk about the upgrade for the Care Magnet. That Care Magnet is a low profile kind of magnet, where on one side of the magnet, where the blade's at, the wet side, right, you'll basically put this grip, it's kind of styrofoam-ish, whatever you want to call it, and basically that'll cause that magnet to float to the top if you want it. If you don't want it, you can take it off and have it fall down into the sand or on the bottom, or whatever you want to do. But either way, you have this as an option, right? You can also put this on the outside, right, to give it a better appearance. However, if you want a really cool look, right, lots of wood grain, etc., that's where these premium boosters, I believe is the formal name for them, but wooden grips, don't know what you want to call them, but basically that's the upgrade that they came out with, right? And with these, for example, they're really simple, meaning instead of putting this on the outside, you just put one of the grips on the outside. And what's nice about it is that ergonomically it fits your hand better. So those of you who have, we'll say, the algae-free magnets, you'll realize you got to really kind of put some muscle behind that. And I know in some cases my wife can't even move that thing, right? Well, this allows you to get more, I don't know, we call it leverage, for the lack of a better word, right behind that magnet that'll help you. And it's better than trying to do it with your fingers, because that little small grip. That said, some people like that small profile look. For me, I don't really care that much, right? I kind of like this wooden, especially with the grain, right? So with that being said, let's go over a quick unboxing of what you get with a Care Magnet, as well as how these things actually look on the Care Magnets. So are these wooden grips or premium boosters for everybody? No, definitely not, right? That being said, there are some situations where it makes a lot of sense. If you've ever seen any of the Sanjay videos, for example, where he's got that tank built into the wall, there's no place to hide a magnet on the side of the tank, right? And if you do, then you kind of got to get it out. It's really a pain, right? Whereas you can take something like this, throw it on the front of it, it'll class up the magnet versus having kind of like a gray mag float, for example, or, you know, any of the other ones that are out there, right? And it'll blend in a lot nicer to the existing aquarium. So I kind of like that, right? And I think that, again, solves a problem. The other problem that it solves is basically it gives you leverage, meaning some of these magnets, like the Algae-Free, for example, they are strong, right? And you can hardly move it, right? And when you're hardly moving it, it's one of those things where you need to kind of put some, you know, muscle behind it. And here, if you're going with like the Strong Plus kind of magnets, it will give you that leverage that allow you to do it. You know, while we're talking about the Algae-Free, one of the other issues with a super strong magnet is if you're going towards the top, there'll be areas where you cannot get into the corner, right? You need that blade, right? But then as you're coming across the top of that rim, basically you'll have kind of a grip, glide action. And when it grips, it actually spits water over the edge, right? Because the magnets are a little bit too strong ultimately. And you know, you're basically pushing where it's going, and it's just a byproduct of how that whole process works. Whereas the Care magnets, I'll say that they're tuned in a little more. And again, with the wooden grip on it, it allows you to come across that top smooth, get into those corners that you'd like to get to, but at the same time, not spit water out, right, and have to clean it. Because again, to me, we're doing this more for convenience, right? You want the magnet to be out and available and to take a minute of your time, not 10 minutes, right, or a half an hour, right? So again, I'm a big fan of the grips for certain situations. They come in these three colors, right? You have this one here, which I believe they call them a castor, but I think it's like a walnut, right? Rosewood, and then olive. So to that point, I know that they partner with a manufacturer where the wood itself is made from trees that, quote unquote, not coming from, again, the rainforest, right? And they're made of a wood that, again, will hold up well around water. So that's also a plus as well. Again, you can always go with the standard, right? I'm more of a fan of this kind of look than this kind of look, as you saw on the aquarium when I was doing the unboxing. And you know, again, if you need any of these, give my sponsors a chance to earn that business, right? Take a look out on Bulk Reef Supply, Premium Aquatics. They should have them, and if not, then again, I'm sure that there are other places that you can find where you can have the premium booster is what you're looking for, right? For the care magnets. And while we're talking about the sponsors, don't forget Ecosystems, right? As well as Tunze, right? Ecosystems, maker of Miracle Mud. Again, all of my sponsors, again, they care about your success, meaning that they start with your success first, and then the profits of running a business will come afterwards. And I find that very admirable and something worth supporting. So again, if you're looking for somebody to buy something reef keeping from, give those guys a chance to earn that business. I'm Russ Kickle, and thanks again for watching this episode of American Reef.